Okay, and we are live. Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Plenty you want to go through on the Manchester United show tonight, so let's get kicking off and let's get into this. First and foremost, we're going to start off with the thumbnail. We're going to start talking about the big story tonight coming out from Fabrizio Romano, and that is Jadon Sancho guaranteed to leave in the January transfer window. He did an interview, of course, today, and he said it is all but certain, 99.99% set to leave in January. Sancho exploring every available option. So all that talk we saw about Saudi Arabia could be becoming a reality for Jadon Sancho, and we do have to question, where is this guy going to go? How are we going to get him off the books? Obviously, astronomical wages, massive transfer fee. It's going to be hard to move Jadon Sancho on because a lot of people, a lot of clubs, a lot of top managers are going to look at Sancho, the current situation, and they're going to say, why would we want to take a risk on this guy? You know, as good as the potential was at one point, the guy's 23 now. We haven't really seen anything in a Manchester United shirt, bar a couple of pretty good performances here and there across a three-year period. If we're being honest with ourselves, we don't know where his best position is. We don't know how he fits into the team. I think he's got to go. I think we would do really, really well to move this guy off the wage bill. And when we look at the other stories tonight, when we look at what is happening with Sir Jim Ratcliffe, with Sir Alex Ferguson as well, backing Erik Ten Hag, saying that whoever comes in will have to keep Ten Hag, give him the time. I think Sancho's days are they're done. Look, 2 months ago, it could have been very easy for Sancho to have made an apology. And with Manchester United's form, he might have found himself thrown into the team. I feel like we've gone through every available option, every possible combination of players to try get a tune out of this team. He would have got minutes. Even whenever, right before he actually did the outburst on social media, and we saw him banished from the first team, the first thing that happened immediately after that, the very next day, was Anthony ended up having to be dropped from the Manchester United squad because of the legal issues that he was going through, you know, as well. Liman's down there, big ups. It's good to see him, man. Yeah, and Fergie did back Moyes. I feel like Ten Hag's just a better manager than Moyes, if we're being honest with ourselves. But yeah, look, I want to get talking about Sancho because this, again, is another absolutely appalling piece of business. And I do feel like Sancho at the time, yeah, that was the type of player we needed. And I feel like it's not that model of signing those players in that sort of mold, up and coming young players about to burst onto the big scene and about to make it to the big time. That is the kind of signings we should be looking at for the long term. But Sancho just has not worked out whatsoever. Even whenever he was working in training, the performances, they were never there. And I feel like we've been talking about this issue for a very long time, probably around 2 months at this point. And personally, for me, I feel like, yeah, it's time for him to go. I'm sure you guys would absolutely agree as well. And look, speaking of time to go, Erik Ten Hag, of course, under a lot of pressure at Manchester United. It's a big week in terms of the overall season. Next two matches very winnable, but winnable matches have been few and far between for Manchester United this season. They really have. Of course, we play Luton, we play Copenhagen. Those are the next two matches before the international break. I think we got to win both them, really, for the season, and for to have any real hope of Champions League or any real hope of moving up that league table. Because if we actually do win these matches, I was looking at it earlier, that could be 6 wins in the last 8 matches, which would be a bit of a recovery despite the poor performances, the lack of entertainment, the lack of goals. If we can come through this period with some more wins under our belt, and we go away during the international break, have a real good sit down, look at everything going wrong, analyse it, and maybe that's the best way we can move forward. It's a massive week. Beating Fulham at the weekend was not guaranteed whatsoever, and we left it very late. But if we can go out and win that match, if we can go on, beat Copenhagen Wednesday, beat Luton on Saturday, go into the international break with 6 wins in the last 8 matches, despite those shocking performances and results against Newcastle and Man City, I feel like there might be something to build upon there for the rest of the season. There might be, just maybe. We gotta hope that the players and the manager can come together and we can work as a team. We can work and genuinely put top performances in, genuinely win some matches, and that has to be the big goal moving into this week. Because look, Copenhagen and Luton, on paper, this should be 2 very easy wins. We should beat Copenhagen, no problem, really. And Luton Town at Old Trafford, we should sweep them aside. What have we got down below? Chat Sport, does anyone know what type of philosophy Fergie used to play. Fans keep asking what is Ten Hag's philosophy. See, look, this is another thing as well, man. It definitely is an element of nostalgia. Fergie did not have a set style of play. Yeah, we scored goals, but it wasn't always entertaining. We went 4-4-2 at times. We went 4-3-3 at times. We went counter-attacking. We played possession. We played a lot of different systems under Sir Alex Ferguson. You always will do. The evolution of football from when he started in the mid-80s to when he retired in 2013, he had to adapt. He had to change his ways. So I do feel like Ten Hag needs to implement more of his style of play. You know, he did bring in a lot of players in the summer, a lot of players last year to help create the style of play he wants to see on the pitch. And I just don't think it's there. I mean, we're buying possession-based players, players good on the ball like Onana and Mount, and we're not using them. Onana's playing the ball long every time. We have Mount not featuring. So I think he's got to knuckle down. I think he has to go back and stick to his beliefs. But if we can come out of this really, really bad period with 6 wins in our last 8 matches, I think that kind of steadies the ship for a while. And notice, it's so noticeable, the silence. The absolute silence we're seeing, because after City, after Newcastle, we've seen absolute knives out for Erik Ten Hag, for this football team, from the media, from the press, from everyone involved in the sport. And one win, all of a sudden, everything goes very, very, very quiet. And we're talking about him being back now. I do think that, yeah, look, the guy's under pressure. He has to be. Results have to pick up. But I do think as well that a lot of it is capitalizing on the hysteria, capitalizing on the emotions that come out after a match. I'm sure if I go back and watch the Newcastle watch along from last Wednesday, I'm positive that I would have been really negative in it. I feel like after the Fulham match, I still didn't think it was a good performance, but maybe we weren't quite at the stage of saying we need to bin every single player on the team either. So I think it comes in swings and roundabouts. I think that is something that we've noticed for a long time. Negativity sells, Manchester United sells. So if there's a story to be manufactured or a story to be conjured up, it will be probably. But I want to go back to Sancho, because this is, of course, it's a long-running story. I feel like Sancho's exit has been fairly on the cards probably since last season. I think giving him that time off, we expected to see Sancho come back and really up those effort levels, really up his performances on the pitch, really work hard, because what Ten Hag did was go really far out of his way for this player, and then of course it just hasn't materialized. You know, we kind of said last season that with Sancho being sent away, with him being given this time off, this extended period, it was before the World Cup, it was after the World Cup, it was probably 4 months off, if we're being brutally honest with ourselves. I think we expected a lot more, and we just didn't get it. And look, with Antony there obviously is a clear preference to play Antony. And Antony's another player I want to talk about, because he's a guy who just does not look suited to Premier League football. He just does not look good anytime he's out on that Manchester United pitch. He really doesn't. And I'm struggling to remember top-level Antony performances. Probably the best I can remember was Antony against Nottingham Forest. I think we won the match either 2-0 or 2-1. I think Antony scored, and then he assisted for Diogo Dalot. But that's pretty much it. I think Antony's another player. And look, there's stories going around today that we want to swap him for a Brazilian league striker, Gabriel, I think it is. Yeah, I mean, that's just not going to happen either. I think Romano pretty much shut that down. But I want to go through Fabrizio's interview today, because he was alluding to some interesting points on Jadon Sancho. So he had said, of course, the plan is for Sancho to leave in January and to keep Antony until the end of the season. So I think there's going to be questions asked. And I think there's going to be big questions asked over Antony's long-term future as well. I think Pellistri is a good player. I don't think he's really a top level player, but I think you can see the difference in Pellistri and what he did at the weekend as compared to what Antony did. Would we have got that goal if Antony was still in that position? I don't think so. I don't think he would have done that sort of fighting in the box. I don't think he would have went on the outside initially, and I think he's just a very, very limited player. And I feel bad, because what this does is it piles the pressure on poor Rasmus Højlund. This man, I believe it's around 180 minutes since he had a chance made for him in the Premier League. And of course, those aren't full 90s either. So it's probably three and a half matches at this point since he's had an actual opportunity made for him by this team. And it is so frustrating as well because last season, we were crying out for a top goal scorer. We couldn't hit the back of the net if we tried. We genuinely could not find the goals, and we made lots of chances. Weghorst, so wasteful last season. And we're saying if we put a top striker in there, we get 10, 20 goals extra, and we just haven't got it with Højlund because there's no service now. So I think Ten Hag's got to have a long, hard look at it. I think he has to realise he needs to start making more opportunities to score these goals in the first place. Very much at the minute, we look like a team that picks these players, the likes of McTominay, the likes of Marcus Rashford, the likes of Antony and Bruno, on the basis that they might score a goal. Now, it's worked out for us in recent weeks. We've seen the double from McTominay at Brentford. We've seen the Bruno goal at the weekend, but these aren't top-level performances. These aren't convincing Manchester United performances, and we want to be playing a lot better. But at this moment in time where we find ourselves as a football club, as a team, I guess winning these matches is the most important thing, and hopefully performances can come after international break. But it's concerning. It is concerning. Who have you got down below in the comments? Chatsport said I'd play Antony at left back. I think he might be worth a go on the left wing. I think genuinely, whilst it might negate the likes of Marcus Rashford's potential goal scoring, his lack of goals is kind of making it hard to warrant him playing every match. And he isn't creating a lot of opportunities. I think maybe if we put Rashford on the right, we put Antony on the left, you force them to cross on their stronger foot, maybe we get better service. We've seen Rashford, of course, get an assist for Højlund. I think it was Galatasaray on that right-hand side. It was on the break, he put a good cross in on the right foot, and Højlund scored the header. I think creating opportunities for Højlund is going to get us more goals, because right now I back Højlund to score a lot more than I back Marcus Rashford or Antony. So I think we've got to play to his strengths. I think we've got to get him more involved, and the goals and results might follow after that. We don't know, but I think it's really worth a go. It really is. Let me see the comments as well. Scott says Varane looks to be going to Saudi. That is the news right now. Yes, we'll talk and touch on that one as well. I think Varane's an interesting one. For a lot of us in the summer, we wanted another centre-back, and we wanted it for two reasons. Firstly, a lot of people wanted Harry Maguire to go, myself included. I will absolutely say I thought Maguire should have left in the summer completely. Unfortunately, that deal didn't happen. Look, he's bounced back and he's playing well. This is probably the best we've seen Harry Maguire since that season we finished second under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and we got to Europa League final. That's probably the best form Maguire has enjoyed since then. But I think Varane's an interesting one because on one hand, you have a very, very good centre-back, probably our best centre-back this season on performances. But on the other hand, there does seem to be something wrong both physically and mentally with Varane. I don't know what's happening with his availability, because it's if he was injured, I would completely understand that, because Rafa Varane, as good as he is genuinely made of glass at this point. He cannot play more than 3 matches in a month, maybe in 2 weeks, without getting injured. But it does seem to be something mentally there. Obviously left out of the Manchester derby. That was, of course, for tactical reasons. We started Johnny Evans. I think that has to create some red flags. I think his injury availability has been really poor this season, but he has been ill apparently, and he was ill against Newcastle in the Carabao Cup. He was supposedly not fit enough to make the starting 11 at the weekend as well. So I think Wednesday will be an interesting teller, because if he's still not able to play with illness, why has he been in the squad for the last 3 matches if he is not playing and he's on the bench again on Wednesday night? So I think that will be an interesting one to watch out for. I expect him to come back in. I'm just not sure what's going to happen there. And the Saudi move is interesting. I think as good as they were last season, I think we could look at moving on both Varane and Casemiro if big offers came in, because I don't think they're going to hang around forever. I don't think they're the long-term options at the club really to rebuild. I think Casemiro does look like a player who in the last 6 months has really declined. I think Varane is a player whose injuries are always going to hamper him, so I don't think we can rely on either player anymore. So I think questions need to be asked. I think if big offers come in, I think we've got to have a look at it, and if it is the case, like we move on Varane and we bring in a Tabito, or we bring in a Usman Diamond or an Antonio Silva, someone of that kind of character, that might be more beneficial to the team in the long run. But it will be an interesting time for sure. Let's see who else we got down below. Liman is saying the big difference is players' wages. The reason they cannot play as a unit, like Martinez earning 100k per week and Varane earning 340. I don't know if it comes down to wages. I feel like it probably comes into something. I think you're kind of setting a culture as well with these wage structures. Look, some players you can understand putting on bigger wages. Look, if you told me Bruno Fernandes earns twice of Tyrell Malacia, I would say, yeah, that's probably fair enough. But I think the issues come then if Tyrell Malacia is getting 130,000 a week, because then Bruno's on 260,000 a week. I don't actually know if those are the numbers, but it's just a hypothetical. So I think you're kind of creating a culture where these players are like, they have these big contracts, they're getting paid regardless. It's very difficult to move them on as well. It's part of the reason why we've been so bad in selling players, is because of these wage demands. I'm confident if we go and look, I'm sure it's out there somewhere, that the likes of Anthony Martial or Donny van de Beek, for instance, players who have no long-term future at the club, clearly not getting picked at all, I am positive they're earning 150,000, 200,000, maybe even more than that. So it kind of makes it impossible to move these players on. And I think when we look at how many managers, the likes of Martial, Van de Beek, even if you want to count some of the better players in the squad, maybe a Delo who does play more often, or a Luke Shaw, for instance, they've probably outlasted 5 or 6 different managers at this point as well, and that's got to be a concern. So I think we got to have a real reset on these actual wages as well, because I think it does kind of create a culture of players believing that they've made it when they've arrived, and they get handed 200, 300,000 pound per week. So I think we've got to move away from that, and we have. To some extent, we've moved Ronaldo on, we've moved Paul Pogba on, we've moved De Gea on within the last 18 months. Those are big wages off the books. If we can get rid of Sancho, move him on to Saudi Arabia or anywhere else who wants to take him at this rate, and we move on the likes of Martial at the end of the season, move on the likes of Victor Lindelof, the likes of Donny van de Beek, I think that's probably a better way to work it. I've always had this sort of belief as well that these long-term contracts are not ideal. Now, I don't think we'll ever really get to a point where players are kept on a rolling contract. I don't think that's going to come back in. But I think when players are handed 6-year deals, you're kind of leaving yourself with the only option to be success for these players. And I think that's a concern, because all of a sudden these players are saying, if they don't want to work hard, and if they do get infected with the dressing room mentality, the club mentality of accepting poor performances, lack of work rate, then we're stuck with them for 4 or 5 years until their contract either runs out or somebody comes in and we have to pay them off. We've had this lesson before. We had to pay Alexis Sanchez to leave the club, so I don't know how or why we're falling back into these traps as well. Liman says Anthony has temper issues, not good for left back. No, I don't think he's a left back at all, really. Chatsport says Casemiro will follow Varane. Most would be below that at other clubs. Matoma on 10 grand. Yeah, look, exactly. I mean, even at that, I mean, we talk about it not being much, but if I was earning 10 grand a week, I would be a lot better off than I am at the minute. But absolutely would agree with that as well. I even think Moses Caicedo at Brighton might have been on about £2,000 or £3,000 per week. I don't think we'll go as low as that, but I think if we can cap the sort of top earning status at Manchester United to our best players and keep that at a reasonable level, that's probably better for us long term. I think I always remember going back, and we had issues signing some players in this sort of mould. If we remember, Wayne Rooney was always the top earner at Manchester United, and that was almost a complete policy that we had, and he was paying around £250,000 per week. Obviously, then David De Gea got the big deal. Ronaldo came, Pogba came, probably paying Ibrahimovic £300,000 a week, and that was 7 years ago. I think, yeah, absolutely, that has to be having a real hard look at as well, and I'm sure that's going to be part of the big Sir Jim Ratcliffe plan. So I want to move on to that really briefly, of course, as well. We've known that he is looking to put around £250 million into the club. We know he's looking to update and overhaul that entire sporting structure, and he's looking to make those changes at the top levels in order to really facilitate future change at Manchester United. But there is one or two other things starting to come out as well. One of those, notably, is the plan to work on the Sir Bobby Charlton stand. We were talking about demolitions as well. And rebuilding. Obviously, the South Stand, for anyone who knows Old Trafford as well, it's always been a concern because there's a rail track right behind it. Makes it really difficult to expand. So I think we've got to be having a look at that. I don't think 250 million really scratches the surface, but as an initial investment, I don't think it's nothing to be sniffed at. That's 250 million pounds more than the Glazers have ever put into the football club. But I do think that could be beneficial down the line. I think that could be worked on in terms of updating the actual training facilities, working on the actual recruitment facilities as well. That seems to be Ratcliffe's big plan at the moment, is to really overhaul the top of the football club, change the direction from within. And we're seeing that as well. Paul Mitchell, all but guaranteed to come in at this point. He's going to be heading up recruitment. I think that's a good move. I think that's someone we want to see. Of course, the other ones as well, we're talking about Jean-Claude Blanc coming in as a new CEO. Richard Arnold expected to go as well. So I think these kind of big plans, I think these kind of ideas are going to help us in the long run for sure. But it's what's going to happen in the here and now. I think that's also important, because as much as we want to talk about long term, and as much as we all can collectively agree that if we are struggling for a season or two whilst things are completely changed at the club, and then we have the ability to go on and really compete for the next 5, 6, 7 years, I think that's a much more sustainable way to work things. I think that's a better way to work things. But I do have questions about where that leaves us in the moment. Obviously, we can't just say we'll be good in 3 years. We still have to be competitive and continually improve as well. Chatsport says Megastore will get that 250 million. I'm hoping not. It's probably going to go into Manchester United directly, but it doesn't seem to be going towards that sort of player recruitment. So it's not going to be Erik Ten Hag being given 250 million pounds with the transfer committee and some really good recruitment guys to help him build a team and help him further the team. That's not going to be what's happening. I think a lot of us kind of expected it. I think when we've seen the Qataris all summer talking about looking to put £1 billion into the team over a course of years, I think a lot of people think that money's going to go right to the actual transfer kitty, but that doesn't seem to be the case at all. Let me have a look at some of the comments as well. Chatsport says most will be low that at other clubs. Strikers should always be the most paid. 250 is peanuts. Megastore will get that 250 million. Yeah, look, I think there's questions we asked about your actual top earners, who should be it. I think it depends on the team. I think it depends on the player as well. I don't think we could really justify giving Hoyland 300, 400,000 pounds per week at the minute. That's just not going to happen in that regard. But I think genuinely I would have a look, and if we could genuinely halt the pay rises at the minute, I absolutely think we need that as well. Obviously, players being paid more this season, that is, I think it's a good move on paper, because it's kind of like, if these guys work hard and play really well across the season, then they're going to get a 25% pay cut for being Champions League next season. Or if they miss out, then they're kind of punished by a 25% pay cut as well. I don't think that's a bad idea. I think more performance related contracts and bonuses, I think that really does lead to more competition. And whether we want to admit it or not, I think players will be money motivated to a large extent. If someone told you at work you would get paid double pay for the day if you hit your target and exceeded it, or in the case of football, scoring 2 or 3 goals in a match, all of a sudden you're going to be like, Joe, I'm going to work a little bit harder. I'm not going to take that run to the coffee shop. I'm not going to sit and have a look at Twitter on my phone as well. So I think it all feeds into that as well. Absolutely it does. But an interesting story as well that we want to talk about just come out fairly recently. And of course that is Sir Alex Ferguson backing Erik Ten Hag. And I think, yeah, Luman said it at the start, Fergie did say it, back David Moyes. Yeah, that is true, but I think it's important because I think Fergie is a member of the board as it sits at the minute. And it's Ellie Grant has said Ten Hag has received a further boost ahead of this week's crunch clash in the Champions League, as he now has the unwavering support of Sir Alex Ferguson. I think Fergie will be against sacking managers. And I do think, yeah, look, some of these ideas are probably a little bit out of date from Sir Alex. And I think, yeah, look, we're not going to see another manager in that kind of ilk and that kind of importance to the club running the things from top to bottom. But I do think Fergie will be an influential voice. I think if Fergie speaks at the club, he will be listened to as well, and his opinion will be valid. Um, it's I really doubt this board would be ignoring Sir Alex Ferguson's advice. So I think, yeah, if you're Erik Ten Hag, that's probably a boost for you, getting some more support within the club. I think, yeah, look, we do seem to be quite unwilling to move Ten Hag on. I think if we lost against Fulham, the questions would be growing and the demand for something to change, something to happen would be growing week after week. I think the biggest things going on for Ten Hag's favour, and I'll list them off right now as well. Number one, of course, is the takeover going on. I don't think the current board with the Glazers, I don't think they could sack Erik Ten Hag. I think that will be something Ineos will be deciding very soon once they walk through the doors. So I think that sort of bought him a stay of execution. I think the upturn in results in the last couple of weeks, despite those bad performances and horrendous results at Old Trafford against Newcastle and Man City, if we win the matches this week, we beat Copenhagen and Luton, 2 matches we absolutely should be winning. That could put us up to 6 wins from the last 8 matches, and that has to count for something. Even if performances aren't there, the results are kind of keeping us in and around competitive areas in the league table, in the Champions League group. Because if we win tomorrow night, on Wednesday night against Copenhagen, Bayern Munich beat Galatasaray as expected, then that could put us up to 6 points, so we will be second in the group. And if we win against Luton Town, we could end going into the international break on 21 points, and that probably puts us up to around 5th or 6th place. So it's not been good start, but we are still there or thereabouts in some regards. And with us knowing that we can get a lot better, I think that's the real hope, I guess. And it's been difficult to have hope this season, but genuinely, we know this team's playing so far below itself. We know this team has really struggled this season with injuries, with form, with performances, results, things going on the pitch, things going off the pitch. A lot has gone wrong for Manchester United Football Club already this season, but I think it's knowing that we can be a lot better hopefully means that we can build upon this. I would like to think we can build upon this if we go in into this international break, having beat Fulham, beat Copenhagen, beat Luton Town at home, 3 matches we should be winning. Obviously, look really disappointing going out of Carabao Cup, but Carabao Cup will not make or break this season. We were told last year when we won the Carabao Cup, it's only the League Cup. It doesn't matter. So by the same logic, it shouldn't matter that we're out of it. If we're going to use that same logic. Look, getting smashed by City in the derby is disappointing. I don't think a lot of us were really surprised either, though. I think that is the real thing that we will say, is that was probably coming. And look, if we can go into this international break, only a couple of points from the top 4 places, still with a good chance of going through in Europe if we beat Galatasaray, or at least don't lose that match, then I think all of a sudden things might look a little bit rosier. We might see takeover updates. We might see that progress. And I think the entire vibe around the club might lift and alter. There's players that come back from injury. Amad Diallo obviously coming back. He probably gets a run on the right wing. Kobe Mainoo back in the squad now. Luke Shaw should be back before Christmas. Lissandro Martinez expected back around about the new year as well. So going into the second half of the season, there might be cause for hope if we can improve these results and improve these performances and keep on winning matches. Even if it's not pretty, it is getting the job done for now. We want to see more, but at the minute, I can completely understand trying to just grind out these results at the moment. I think we got to improve upon it. There's got to be more in Ten Hag. There's got to be more in this team. But right here now, when things aren't going your way, the most important thing, of course, is going to be to get those performances, to get those results and build upon it. We said going into the last international break that Brentford win had to be a turning point. Ultimately, it didn't turn out to be that. I think picking up results, even if we're not playing well, I think that could help to build some more confidence, get players back Hopefully, we can hit a reset button over the international break. Ten Hag can come back with a plan of approach because we still have some winnable matches coming up as well, matches we should be winning, and hopefully we can improve the levels of performances. And if we can do all that, and the takeover comes in with Ratcliffe, that'll give a boost, and he'll have that better structure around him as well. I'm looking at the next matches. Look, it's an interesting run, but we should still be doing good in those matches as well. We should be beating Everton, absolutely. Galatasaray away, that's going to be a hard one. Newcastle United away, that's going to be a really difficult match. Chelsea at home, we should be winning that one. Then we play West Ham, we play Aston Villa, we play Nottingham Forest, we play Liverpool, we play Tottenham, Wolves in the new year. And then we go in West Ham, Aston Villa again, Luton, Fulham. It's not a bad run. I think we could expect to pick up some points there, hopefully. Hopefully. Look, there's matches I don't give us a lot of hope for in this current moment in time. Going away to St James's Park, that's going to be a hard one. Having Chelsea at Old Trafford, that will be a difficult match. Going away to Anfield is going to be really, really difficult in that Christmas lead up. West Ham away won't be any pushovers. But we can pick up some points and we can build a little bit more momentum, and hopefully the performances can improve. Hopefully Manchester United as a team can pick up the results, build upon the performances, and Erik Ten Hag can really implement his style of play. I think that's what we got to see. At the minute, we're not seeing it, but I get it to some extent. I get it to get these results over the line, and the difference in feeling around the club right now is completely different. You guys remember back, it was only Thursday, there was calls for Ten Hag to get sacked. We were talking about it on the live show. Can he turn things around? Do the players even back him at this point? We didn't know. We genuinely didn't. But what we can say now is, I don't know if teams with down tools for the manager would be fighting until the 91st minute to get a winner, would be fighting back against Brentford in the last 2 minutes of that match, in 7 minutes of added time to win that match. I do think a lot of things have gone wrong for us both on and off the pitch. I do think that Ten Hag has a lot of answers, a lot of questions he needs to answer. I think the style of play, the performance, the goals is really poor. Even if we look at the stats-wise, we are definitely overperforming where we should be based on the chances we create, the chances we concede. But Manchester United as a whole, I do think that there might be a little bit of hope, but that all has to start this week. It has to start this week. There's no ifs, no buts, no maybes. We have to beat Copenhagen Wednesday. We have to beat Luton Town, and then we have to go into the international break. Hopefully, our players will not be playing too many matches. Hopefully, our players will come back injury-free, and we can pick up where we left off, play Everton, hopefully beat them, and from there, let's see what can happen going into this Christmas period. It's a really important time of the season, but we're going up against teams in and around us as well with their own issues, who hopefully we can pick up performances against. Look, I don't give us a lot of hope going to St James's Park. I don't give us a lot of hope going to Anfield at this moment in time, but the rest of those matches, West Ham, Everton, Wolves, Aston Villa, Nottingham Forest, these are matches we can win, and these are matches we probably should win as well. What do you got down below? Lucky is down there. I'm focusing one fixture at a time. Mason Mount, Pellistri, Garnacho, and Hoyland. I'm going to say that as a forward line. Not a bad option at all there from Lucky. Luman is saying as well, Ten Hag out, and Lucky saying in. Look, Ten Hag's done well to survive. Other seasons, he probably wouldn't have got to this point. But I think this club is at a point now where we can't sack the manager. And I think it comes down to a couple of things. I think it's starting with money, of course. We don't have £15 million to pay the guy off. I don't want to start the cycle over again. I feel like there'll be an appetite within Manchester United to avoid that situation. And I think Ratcliffe coming in will want to see how Ten Hag operates inside of a proper sporting structure, inside of a proper organisation as well. And hopefully that will make somewhat of a difference. Hopefully that will make something to build upon for the rest of this campaign. Let's find out. It's been an interesting couple of weeks. And just to go back to the main story as well, guys, want to get talking about Jadon Sancho. He will be going in January somewhere. I'm not sure who's going to take him. There was interest from Chelsea in the summer window, but that never really materialized. There was interest as well from Borussia Dortmund about a loan deal with a lot of his wages paid off as well, but I would have been stunned if that did happen as well. But certainly for me, big decisions have to be made there as well. Liman says Ten Hag lineup against Copenhagen and Luton will be typical Ten Hag lineup. It probably will. I fully expect Onana. I think Wan-Bissaka will come back in now. I think we might see Varane come back. Probably Maguire, Reguilon maybe. Midfield, Amrabat probably comes in. Casemiro's out. Bruno will start. It's whether we play McTominay, which I hope we don't. Eriksen, which I think is a good option for 45 minutes. Mount or Hannibal. I would like to see Mino given a shot. I think Mino against Luton at Old Trafford would be a nice way to bring him back into the team, for sure. Let's see. Look, he's down there. Anthony and Rashford. Time to drop these two. I would agree with that. What's up with the Goldbridge and Rashford beef as well? Says Liman. Yeah, look, I think it just sort of came. It kind of just came on Twitter as well. United Stand. Look, United Stand's a big community, really, really big channel, and their stuff does get pushed a lot on YouTube and on Twitter. You always see what Mark Goldbridge is talking about. You always see it. But they basically put out a story today, and they put up a thumbnail as well and a title, I think. And look, everybody does this. United Stand especially. Sometimes they will put things they'll put their own interpretation on a story. They'll put their own spin on a story to try drive up the engagement on it. And they basically said Marcus Rashford future in doubt. And Rashford basically commented on it saying, please stop spreading malicious and fake rumours. So he's basically calling them out for just making them up as they're going along. And then Mark Goldbridge wasn't happy with it either. He kind of clapped back at Marcus Rashford, telling him to focus on his football. And he would listen to him more if he was playing well. He said, I'm a big supporter. Anyone who watches the channel knows there's not too much focus on the brand, not enough on the pitch. He's a good player, but he just has no consistency. That's what Goldbridge was saying. I mean, I think it's interesting. I remember around about, I think it was towards the end of the Ralph Rangnick season, Goldbridge was calling for Marcus Rashford to go. I think he said he was done with the player. He's had enough and we need to let him go. And then Rashford went on, scored 30 goals last season. So, I mean, it's one of these things. I mean, look, YouTube channels, myself included, will look at a story. Everybody does this, and they will pick out the main point that they want to talk about. Like my title tonight is what is it? Sancho January exit guaranteed. That's Fabrizio Romano has said this. Fergie backs Ten Hag. That's coming out tonight. Sir Jim having a big plan to change things at Man United. You know, that's kind of setting the agenda. That's kind of what you want to talk about, and it means that anyone who sees the stream goes, oh, there's someone talking about Sancho's future, there's someone talking about Ferguson backing Marcus Rashford. But I think sometimes, and United Stand especially, do come under attack and under some real flack as well for kind of putting a creative spin on it as well. Look, we see this you see it quite a bit. Some people might call it clickbait. Some people might call it just making the headline. It all depends. Look, there'll be people on there, and there'll be people out there who'll be supporting United Stand and Goldbridge in this, or there'll be people out there who are very against YouTube channels talking about Manchester United and will always support the players as well. I mean, I kind of just stand on it. I get why Rashford feels frustrated. There wasn't really any big clamoring of news this morning saying that Marcus Rashford was going to go either, and that he would be leaving. You know, there was no real reports on that whatsoever. I certainly did not see that. So, who else we got down below as well? The man says, I'm 100% Goldbridge here on Rashford. I mean, yeah, I think he's got to do more on the pitch. I think he's got to perform at a better level. Obviously, he's allowed to defend himself as well. When you put things out into the public, you are inviting criticism, and you're inviting the kind of talk about it. You know, if you put something out there to public, it's there because and that's what public is. You know, anything you put out there, if you post on Twitter or social media or Facebook or Instagram, anybody can comment on it and say whatever they want to say. You know, that's kind of the nature of it. So it's probably nothing new to them. It's probably bringing more attention to their shows because people want to see how they're going to respond. So it's maybe worked well in that case. Daniel's down there. He's just blaming others. I'm not playing. I'm not playing with Rashford. No, he's definitely not playing well. I've had a lot of issues with him this season as well. Look, I don't think he's performed well enough on the pitch. I think, what, one goal this season? Look, the entire forward line's been really poor. I make no mistake about it. He is kind of working a graveyard shift on the left-hand side without a left-back for most of the year as well. But I think he's got to do more. I think his confidence looks very low. He's come under a lot of flack this week for the birthday party he had after the Manchester Derby defeat as well. So he probably wants to try, Marcus Rashford this is, to try to put his own, project his own innocence and his own sort of opinions onto social media as well for people to see. Because whilst footballers might not watch the long live streams, they might not watch 20-30 minute videos talking about it, analysing it, one thing they will see is whenever you see United Stand, or you'll see Stretford Paddock or AFTV, whoever it might be, putting up like a 20-second clip onto their Twitter that gets like 4 million views. You're guaranteed to have someone close to a Manchester United player in that kind of space who would be seeing that sort of stuff, and they probably will show it to them eventually. I think I remember Diogo Dalot or Andreas Pereira or somebody else said about United Stand before as well, but like, it's not really much of an issue to me. Like, I don't think too many people know this channel exists, so it'll probably stay that way for a long time as well. But I mean, it is what it is. It's just one of those things in life. Ghana is down there. Good evening. I'm really sad if Sancho leaves. He has more quality than most of the current players. If managed well, I feel Ten Hag overused the powers on the issue and was kind of forced to ban him. I follow Goldbridge. He changes and denies most of what he says. Only Ricky knows football on that platform. Lucky is down there as well. I don't expect of United they've got things wrong in the last 10 years. Look where we are. Yeah, absolutely, Lucky. 1.8 billion I saw today in 10 years. We couldn't have spent it much worse at all. So that's got to be something we change. As much as we want to see United giving an endless pile of money to spend on player transfers and changing the stadium and stuff, I also don't think we can really say that Richard Arnold and John Murray, these guys who've got so much wrong, I don't think we can safely give them that money and expect them to really turn things around as well. If it was a case that they were really good at their jobs, they just didn't have the money, we'd be a lot better off right now as well. An interesting point there as well about Ghani. I watch bits of United Stand. I don't really watch a lot of it, mostly because they tend to stream whenever I'm in work. So like, they'll stream in the afternoon, the evening, and the morning, and like, I'm working 9 to 5 or 9 to 6. So I mean, I don't really get a chance to watch too much of that, and then I'm doing my own stuff as well. But I mean, yeah, I know some people on it. Ricky comes out with some interesting things sometimes. And I'm not always sure if he's completely meaning it as well. But yeah, I mean, it's entertainment. I don't think people would really go to United Stand for kind of the in-depth coverage like you might see on some of the other channels out there. I think you get good round the clock news, some of it questionable sources at times, but I mean, I've no problem with United Stand. I really don't, and I don't think that there would be much of a space out there for other creators like myself without the likes of United Stand out there as well. Let's see, Lucky says, we made a mess for 10 years. We are stranded. Yeah, absolutely, Lucky. Look, we have really made a mess of this for 10 years as well. But I do think there's some interesting stories brewing. I think the Saudi interest might be real, and I think Saudi Arabia will be looking at United and thinking there's players they can get. One player I would be absolutely stunned if he did leave to go to Saudi Arabia would be Bruno Fernandes. I can't see that one happening. I cannot see Bruno going to Saudi Arabia. Varane, I could see that happen. I could see Casemiro happening as well. I think they'll probably take a look at it from the point of view that they are coming towards the end of their career. Absolutely, they are. They're getting towards the end of their career, and they might look at it as a big payday. Because ultimately, this team isn't going to win anything major within the next 2 seasons, 3 seasons maybe. And by that point, Casemiro's going to be 34, 35. Varane's going to be 33. I mean, they're probably looking at it from that point of view, thinking there's no point to me being here for the long term because I won't be there. which would beg the question why we signed these players in the first place. And that again comes down to bad recruitment, because I don't think you start a rebuild and you start to work towards a long-term vision of what a manager wants to implement with players in their 30s. I just don't think that works. And it's not just Casemiro, Varane that will probably go to Christian Eriksen, that will probably go to Bruno Fernandes, who will be in his 30s by the time this team might be winning a Premier League, or might be competing for that as well. Gani is asking, why do you think Ten Hag is not playing the new goalkeeper? I mean, the guy's an international and he cannot be that bad. I think he wants to play Onana through the form. I think Onana's definitely improved in the last couple of weeks. I think his confidence has definitely grown since he saved the penalty against Copenhagen. I think that was a big moment for him in his Man United career, because from there we're kind of seeing Onana have a really good match against City despite conceding 3 goals. It probably would have been 6 or 7 if not for Onana making some big saves. He made saves against Newcastle, big saves against the likes of Sheffield United, keeping us in that one. And at Fulham as well, made some important stops. So I wouldn't mind seeing Bayern there. I don't know when he's going to play. I think if Onana goes to the African Cup of Nations, he will miss 7 matches, I believe. So we'll probably see Altay Bayern get a run then. I would have thought he would have played in the League Cup against Newcastle, or in the last round as well. I think it was West Ham at Old Trafford, maybe. So I would have been... No, Crystal Palace, sorry. I think we could have played him in that one as well and given him a run out. I would like to see what he's all about. He's obviously a good goalkeeper. He was at Fenerbahce, and now he's at United. He is the Turkish goalkeeper as well for the international team. So I'm surprised he's not playing. Daniel says, do we need seagulls? Do players to look at players and sell players, get the wage bill down? Yeah, we absolutely, we got to get the wage bill down. And when you do that, it makes it a lot easier to sell players, because there's a very limited group of teams out there who can really afford the likes of Maguire or Sancho, or the likes of Varane or Casemiro. Whoever we try to move on, we can't really move them on to a lot of teams. And you have to ask, what would, say, a Casemiro, or what would a Varane or a Martial or a Van de Beek offer to a team who could afford their wages, like Man City or Arsenal or Liverpool or Chelsea? They probably don't get into those teams. So you're kind of reducing your options really in what you can do. And that's one of the reasons we couldn't see Harry Maguire leave to West Ham. They just couldn't afford it. So I think a smarter wage structure absolutely is needed, and that will mean we can move players on, and we're not stuck with players we don't want to use at the team either. Gani says Onana will be going to Nations Cup in 2 months' time. How's the new guy going to adapt suddenly? That could be my concern as well. That's why I would have said play him in the Carabao Cup matches. I wouldn't mind, maybe we could use him at the weekend against Luton Town. Maybe that's something we could do. I think that, give the guy a run out, give him some fitness as well, because he's not played a match. By the time African Cup of Nations comes around, he probably hasn't played a match since last May. So you're looking at 6 or 7 months without playing top flight football in a team he hasn't kicked the ball for yet. So that has to be a concern as well. And I hope that he can adapt when called upon. I hope he can go out and be solid when needed. But I wouldn't mind him being given an opportunity. I think Ten Hag is kind of, his hand was a little bit forced with Onana, because I think Onana needed to play through the bad form. I think that I think that's helped Onana in the long run, but I think we got to do the same for Altay Bayern. Play these players in their bad form, let them play through, let them build up their fitness, build up their sharpness, and get used to the team. I think we've got to do the same thing with Mason Mount. I think we need to do the same thing with Garnacho especially. And my big thing with Garnacho is, last season Rashford was close to undroppable. He really was. 30 goals, 11 assists. We would have got really nowhere without those goals last year. It's not the case now. It's really not. And a lot of people talk about Garnacho not being a player who is able to really to really play 90 minutes and be effective across those 90 minutes. But he doesn't get to that level without playing them. It's one of these things. It's like when you start a new job, you're not going to be the best person in your work because you don't know it yet. But if you're only working 8 hours a week, for instance, you're not going to pick it up as fast as you would do if you're working like 20 hours a week, where you're in more, you're working more, you're getting used to it, you're building yourself up, and you're developing that week on week. I feel like 30-minute cameos off the bench, 20 minutes against hard legs. Yes, it might be effective, but I don't think that develops the kid long term. I think we got to give him a go, and I think with Rashford injured at the minute, I think Rashford's form as well means that he is droppable. He should be seen as a player we can drop. If it was last season and Rashford had scored 20 goals already this year, or 15, and he was the top goal scorer and we couldn't win a match without him, I would say, yeah, do you know what? It's kind of hard for Garnacho. Maybe a loan is needed, but Rashford has not played well enough this season, really, to be a player who we say, yeah, we can't drop the guys. So I think that's got to be something we look at. That's where it says Sancho is 25 million with his wages. Yeah, look, that's a concern. I mean, nobody is going to pay that guy £300,000 per week. So it's about what he wants to do with his career at this point, because he could take the Saudi money and he could go there and earn a lot of money. What does that mean for his professional development? I don't know. Some people would argue if he was caring about the professional development, he wouldn't be in this situation at the minute either. And it's not like it's really not like Anthony has been a player who's been undroppable either. Daniel says 3-4 years will tell us if a new director of football has worked. Do I agree? I think we'll see immediate improvement in a lot of areas. I think we can look at the type of players we're signing and say if they're going to be good fits or not as well. I think, yeah, you got to give it time to work as well. I don't think anything will really change this season. I would be absolutely stunned if we have a busy January transfer window. As much as we might need it, I don't think with a new director of football and new structure and everything coming in, all those parts, a lot of change, I don't think that will be ready at this rate of going for January, because we are, what, on the 6th of November at the minute, so the January window opens in about seven weeks' time. I don't think a lot's going to change between now and then. I think the bigger test will be summer. And look, if we have a good transfer fund next year, there's funds available with the right recruitment team, I think that's going to help us. And when you give money to people who know what they're doing and know how to spend it, that's only going to be a good thing for you in the long run. It really, really is. Because right now I couldn't back John Murda and Richard Arnold to get the signings right, to bring the right personnel in. I think, yeah, giving Erik Ten Hag what he might want, if he asks for it, I think, yeah, that sounds good on paper, but I think he's made a lot of his own mistakes as well. Anthony especially. Casemiro was a short-sighted signing. I think big question marks over Mason Mount, a player who I do like and I think can be a good player for us. But we signed him for 60 million in the summer when we arguably needed different types of players. We arguably needed a defensive midfielder. We arguably needed that centre back as well. I think signing him for £60 million is very questionable when he's not playing. So I think, yeah, Ten Hag does make his own problems to an extent with recruitment. I think the club are kind of enabling it as well. And I think he needs to have a better group of people around him. He said, do you know what? Maybe we should look at a centre-back instead. And here's why. Varane not going to be able to stay fit. Maguire, you're looking to let him go. We only have Lindelof, he isn't good enough. Or Lisandro Martinez coming back from a big injury. I think you got to look at a centre-back instead. So I think having that kind of support around him will definitely help. Make no mistake about it, that will help a lot. And that should make a big, big difference moving forward. Having good people in charge of the big decisions. Gani says, how can someone contact me? If you want to contact me, let me see, man. My email address is in the bio of the account, and so is my Twitter as well. There is a Discord. Let me actually just put the link into the chat as well, because there is a Discord. I'm trying to be a little bit more active on it as well, because sometimes with work and everything else going on, I don't get enough time really to be on it as much as I want. But there is a Discord. If you guys have that, I'll pop it into the chat as well for you guys. If you want to get chatting as well. That should be that. That is, yeah, that's the Discord link in there as well. All right, guys, I'm going to have to leave the stream here now. We'll be back on live tomorrow, same time, 7 p.m. UK time, and as well, of course, the watch along on Wednesday night. So we'll be there for all of that. If you guys do want to pop me a message or join in with the Discord, it is in the chat down below, or you can message me on Twitter as well. The username is, I think it's, I don't really post a lot on Twitter either, but I think it's United Stefan. Yeah, it is. It is United Stefan as well. Just if anybody does want that little bit there, if you want to shoot me a message or do whatever, let me know as well. All right, guys, thanks so much for tuning in tonight. Really appreciate all the support, and we'll catch you all in the next one.